Alright, I'm live now. We'll do an introduction and stuff in a second once I can see the stream.
Hello, everyone.
Schrodinger's patch. That doesn't make any sense, Sir Rhino. I don't think you understand Schrodinger, but whatever.
Alright, so we're live. It looks okay. Cool, so I can close this. Alright, so we all good to get started?
Yeah, maybe.
Sure. Did anybody tweet at Direwolf? I'm going to tweet at Direwolf.
Yeah, do it. Alright, I can just start an
No,
intro
they always had people, like, when I used to make videos for New Mod, they would always pay attention to anyone doing Eternal content. So.
Yeah, if you, like, added them. But they've never retweeted me.
You gotta say something really nice, and then they retweet.
Yeah.
Your wonderful, very communicatively balanced game, where we don't gut certain cards that the community loves. Yeah.
I will have to say, I am impressed that we got the patch notes before the event.
Yeah. wait, is there an event?
No, but I mean before the actual
the patch goes live. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah,
Could you imagine if that just happened randomly, like with Cheap Lake in like 2 days?
Yeah, we all we've already submitted our decks. We're bringing this burn deck, and then all of a sudden,
So far, Drake now costs 6. What?
Yeah. Alright, let's get started. Let's do an intro. You know how it works, guys. So, this would be like where the video, I guess, starts, because we're super professional about this. So, hey guys, it's GHP, and today I'm joined by way too many people to review the newest patch. So, I'm joined by Darkness.
Hello.
The Overmaster.
Hey.
Trystero.
Hello.
Tatavath.
Hi.
And Hulkbuster.
There be gone, baby.
What? So we're gonna be reviewing the patch.
Tatavath. Auto AWC member, Tatavath.
Yeah, it's EWC reviews the patch and Tatavath.
That means we're reviewing Tatavath, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Oh baby.
Nice.
I think so.
He's got some really nice curves and
nice screen.
That beard, which he shaved apparently.
Oh, we just need SPDV here, and my voice would be the point of conversation.
Oh, yes.
Anyway.
Alright, so we have the patch up in front of us. If you don't have the patch, you probably want to follow along, because we're going to be going on the Eternal client for, like, cards, and then I'm just going to be looking at the patch and same with everyone else. So we're going to start with the Pathfinder and Trailblazer cards. So this is more targeted towards Elijah Pathfinder, obviously. Trailblazer sees play in one deck, and it's called Carpet Shuffle, which is now no longer a deck. I'm sorry. But they wanted to keep these cards symmetrical, so by the blunders that Elijah Pathfinder caused, they decided to absolutely kill Elijah Trailblazer. I hate the Echo Macro deck with a passion, but I also hate the fact that things in this game time out so easily when you're not actually making actions, which hurt things like means to an end combo, Echo Macro, Voda combo. So I'm happy we don't have games where that's an issue anymore, hopefully. The card now costing 7. I think it's no longer playable, especially at triple time. I don't think the Echo Macro deck really survives this, to be honest. I don't really care if I'm wrong on this, but I just don't think the deck can function without the Echo effect. And this being 7 mana is so much mana. Like, you're really paying 7 mana for nothing, and then hoping to go off with it. Like, at least for 5, you got a 3-3, and it wasn't awful. But at 7, that 3-3 just doesn't matter enough. Like, the board is already either empty because of harsh rules, or this is just not going to do anything. It's a chump blocker. I don't think either of these cards are going to see any play anymore. I may be wrong, and I'm curious to see what you guys think. But I think the Echo Macro deck may go down in flames with this as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it's dead. I mean, even if it gone to 6, I'm not too sure. Like 6 and triple time would have probably killed it even. But they decided to make it 7 to absolutely destroy it. So it was very, very, as Tatavath would say, heavy-handed. And they didn't increase the stats on the card to make the change seem like it was just for the Echo part of it. It's just, I don't know. I agree with them changing it because it did lead to competitive game states. I'm not too sure I agree with Elysian Trailblazer being like, sort of the bully boy here, right? Being this, it's basically the same thing as the Pathfinder, but it's not really. They weren't affecting the games in the same way. And yeah, I agree with them changing it because of repetitive game states, but no, I don't agree with their not stat buffing, and they went a little overboard on this one.
Yeah, so I'm Tatavath. My point on this one is slightly different than Overmaster's, but mostly agrees with GHP, and I want to just point out some history. We're saying that Trailblazer wasn't a problem, but if we look at classically, Trailblazer is the reason for the nerf to excavate in a lot of ways. And Trailblazer and just giving Echo to random cards and random stuff is basically fundamentally been a problem since, I don't know, last February. We just didn't, like, it wasn't as much of a problem because it wasn't as obvious. And they fixed Excavate then when they could have fixed Trailblazer and would never have had this problem in the first place. But, yeah.
Yeah, Trystero here. I agree with what Tatavath was saying with the Trailblazer nerf. I think that Echo and Destiny are keywords and mechanics that Direwolf's been experimenting with that you can only do in the digital realm, you can't do in paper card games. And I think they've been really trying to figure out how best to balance the digital feel and video game feel of those effects while not taking away too much from the card game, like paper feel. And so Echo and Destiny, especially together, really fundamentally break, I think, what card games should be doing. And the idea of like, this card has value, or like, playing this card is playing this card, as opposed to just, it's on top of your deck randomly. Now it's played, now another random effect, and then giving Echo to a card too. Now you randomly have 2 of this, and now this card gets extra value it's not supposed to. That's a really dangerous, I think, design zone to be in, where these cards get extra value and do things you're not supposed to do. So I think the really hard nerf is to let people experiment with those Echo spaces without really fundamentally changing the meta of the game in general, or really fundamentally changing how the game should play over a series of games on ladder, basically. Because I mean, the worst thing about the Echo Macto deck for me was that on ladder you might have a really fair deck or a few really fair games, or really good card games, and then you get a string of Echo decks, and now you're playing a completely different game. Like, you're no longer playing a card game, you're playing like a video game. So I think nerfing that to happen less is a good thing.
Well, what I kind of appreciate the fact that Echo and Destiny are in the game, because to me it harkens back to like Magic Cube design. You don't necessarily want to leave out powerful, like Destiny is probably the most powerful keyword in the game. I think it's pretty obvious to like say that if there was a card with Destiny, like if you printed a 1/1 with Destiny or whatever, that card would need to be very low power level because the card is really powerful. But I think the fact that they added stuff to that in the game, it's like you want to add power sprinkle around a card game so that there are, like, I think the fact that Echo Macto, for example, has existed is good for the game. Like, it's really cool that a deck that could thrive, even though it's kind of obnoxious to play against, and I think there is like certainly a reason to make it go away. But for example, if they wanted to nerf this without nerfing those cards specific, it would be very easy to just add like, say Destiny would exhaust itself if it happened once, and then the game would remember that. So even if you drew a Destiny unit again, it wouldn't go back into play. Same with Echo. You could only Echo a unit once. Like, they could make that change to the game in its entirety, and that would also nerf the deck. But with the way they're doing it now, they're at least preserving the power level of the keyword in itself, so it still opens up for like interesting strategies. What I also will say is that I think what kind of gets lost here is that Echo Macto was really the only 4-color control deck that decent success, at least as long as I've played the game. And I think there is like you can look at the deck as kind of just a control deck that wins via this really weird combo. But there's also some downside to that, in that it's like if you're gonna play 4-color control when Echo Magto is around, you have to make a really strong argument to why you're doing anything else. And that's probably another reason they nerfed these cards, is that now with that gone, it's easier for another like 4-color control deck to find room in the game.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts with like just Echo Mocto in general is that like Destiny is a very, very hard mechanic to make balance, because I mean you're making cards 0-cost cantrips with Destiny, which is an incredibly powerful effect, as you mentioned, Hulk. So you know, if you like, because of like just how Pathfinder worked with that stuff, it can get out of control really quick. And I mean, I think this was a bit of overkill for the nerf, but I think I don't really care too much, because Echo Mocto is not really a fun deck to play against. It is cool, like, sort of when it's a fringe deck, but when you're playing it like every other match, it kind of gets annoying. So yeah.
So do we think the Echo deck, let's go one by one. Do we think the Echo deck is A, dead, B, could still be fringe playable, or C, is still good?
Dead.
If people just adjust.
Dead.
Dead.
Yeah, I think it's dead.
What I will say in their favor is that I don't think there's any way to nerf the cards that aren't nuking them that doesn't kill them, that also doesn't allow the deck to survive.
Yeah.
Like if you make them 6 mana or whatever, you can still play the deck. Is it Trailblazer or the other one?
Pathfinder's the creature one.
But it doesn't matter if Pathfinder is already really inefficient. Like if you make that 6 mana, whatever, that doesn't kill the deck. They needed to nuke it in order to kill the archetype.
I will agree. There was another option though that I think we should all acknowledge, which was the fact that they could have nuked Destiny as a keyword and made you pay the mana cost.
Yeah,
I don't like that, because then it
or they could have
gets rid of
Destiny only works once a game. It would be really easy to have it exhaust.
Yeah, but it would be nuking the keyword. That's all I was trying to say.
We could also nuke the keyword revenge, and that would be,
I
or
think that needs
not
to
nuke
be-
it, but change it to be what it should be, and that's Revenge X. But you know,
It is interesting that they went after the Echo effects rather than the Destiny effects. I wonder what the overall thought is on that, as opposed to, like you say, nuking Destiny would have, like, they could have targeted Destiny, Revenge, or Echo, but they targeted Echo. And I wonder what the
I don't think they
fundamental reason
could,
for that was.
because they can't within the game engine target the Destiny. They could only do it via the cards that I gave.
They'd have to
gave Echo.
rework the other two keywords, as in Revenge and Destiny. Echo's the only one that you can kind of cheat on a little bit, where this is the only card that's, like, really a problem. Like, Find the Way is not a problem. This is the only card that is a problem with Echo, and that's because it gives the cards that you don't ever want people to be able to echo, and because of that, this card created a lot of random problems. Someone in chat, I think they were joking about it for Hearthstone memes, but it being a 7-mana 4/4, but I actually think they needed to give it some extra stats, especially at triple time, if they wanted the card to at all be playable.
I would have liked it to be like a free 7, or just give it a huge butt. You make it like a good blocker in addition to what.
Like,
that would be interesting.
like you
That
could
would
play
be-
a Carrion 7, or you could play this.
Yeah, really though. Alright, I
Do we
think
think
we've
that going forward, Direwolf is gonna start to phase out some of these keywords, some of these effects? Like, I want, because
Yes.
I feel like Echo doesn't. Have they printed anything with Echo?
No, not since that one.
They printed
Or not
one
since Find the Way.
Destiny card in
Find the Way
set
was
3.
the last one.
I think they're gonna keep experimenting with these type of keywords, but I don't think they get married to any specific, like Fate, for example. They haven't been Fate cards since the first set.
Yeah.
Oh, we just got a
I
fake
think
card.
I think there was a fake card. Yeah.
Yeah,
We got a promo
the-
fake card like 2
the
weeks ago.
promo.
Oh, right,
is
yeah.
Fate.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
But yeah, that's it basically.
Fate's
But
a pretty
I really
powerful mechanic, to be
appreciate how they-
honest.
Yeah,
Yeah, I really. And that card is actually kind of good. I tried it out and it actually works.
that card's
But
it got some text.
Anyway,
Alright, together guys, we may about to have tears run down our face. Some of us are about to rip their pants off and celebrate. Ladies and gentlemen, Vero the Fate Touched. Now when you play a shadow unit, play an additional shadow unit for your void. So she no longer has the summon effect of bringing one back. So she now reads as an 8 mana 6/6 with Deadly, that every now and then when you have tons of mana and for some reason didn't play another creature from your hand, you get to bring something back. In my opinion, I'd like to commemorate the loss of the cards Vera Fate Touch and Grasp Against Shadows. I think Vera is no longer anywhere near playable card. If you got foils, I'm sad to say, dust them. I think she's no longer good as a Felon top-end, and the most notable thing to me is they also really slapped Reanimator across the face, because if you look at cards in this game, not only for ramp payoff, so like Praxis, and Reanimator, there's nothing worth either ramping into in this game, besides Vera, which no one ramps into her because the best way to put her in play in that case is Grasping. And there's nothing worth reanimating now. She was the only thing that you wanted to realistic reanimate. Sure, you could go against aggro like Snow Crush Animus, but you don't build your deck around that anymore. And I think because of that, I don't think you can play Reanimator, and I don't think you can play Vera as a top-end. I just don't think the card's playable. I also think this is going to drastically hurt Felon Control, which we...
Finally.
Yeah, well, Felon, some people love it, some people hate it, but this top-end sometimes felt oppressive, especially when you went, Vera, get back a champ. You wipe it, okay. Vera, get back champ. We're done here most of the time. Sometimes it felt oppressive, that's true. But without this, Felon is going to really struggle to have that top-end. Champ is real good, no one can deny that. But it's often not good enough in those really grindy matchups. I think this heavily hurt Felon. I think some form of Reanimator, which probably doesn't play Grass, which probably just a Scream deck, is still fine. But I think Vera is just not going to see the light of day anymore.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think they could, again, they were a little drastic in the nerf here. Like, they could have made it Vara can't get back Vara, or Vara can't lead the void, or something like that, right? And it would have been probably fine.
Oh, that would have been a good nerf. Yeah.
Good call.
But they decided to completely kill, and this was not targeted at Felon Control, all right? Because Felon Control can quote unquote survive. I know Hulk will disagree here, but it's a deck that people will attempt to make survive even through a nerf like Vara. But this, I think the game states that were created from the Reanimator deck, which I will say that I had a hand in creating. So I guess I got a card nerfed, boys.
That deserves your own achievement.
But anyway, it was specifically targeted at Reanimator, and the game states that were created during Reanimator kind of felt a little Echo Macdoy. I don't know, because you just kept on playing Varas, and your entire graveyard, it was basically an army in a can style of effect, and I think it was kind of getting obnoxious at some point. I'm not too sure how powerful it was at the top tables. Like, there were ways to stop it, but I think that plug was released when Steward was gone, so even though it didn't feel like Reanimator was oppressive in the metagame that was created after the Steward nerf, I feel like people weren't exploring that enough, and yeah, I think that, yeah.
My points is pretty simple. Vera's dead, and I'm sad. I think the other important point that should be noted is that basically the most efficient control finisher in the game is basically gone. Like, we can talk about Gift, we can talk about Ikaria, we can talk about whatchamacallit, Last Word, and all of them are substantially worse than, Vera. Vera was just better than everything else.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I personally am so happy about this nerf. I absolutely hate the Felon Control deck for a lot of reasons, but the short version is I really hated the fact that it was basically nothing but set one cards that were just literally overpowering any other finisher, like you said. Like, Vara was the most efficient control finisher. It was unbelievable inevitability at the end, and you could build to. And one of the things I really hated about Vara, specifically bringing back Vara, was that it would punish you for removing your opponent's threats. Like you knew that if you couldn't, like if you had to take time off from attacking your opponent's life total to deal with their board, you were losing the game because they were eventually going to play Vara and get those things back, and now you were down the removal spell. So the fact that it felt hopeless from the beginning, depending on what deck you were playing and how you wanted to play the rest of your game, knowing that Vara was coming. So I'm really happy about this. I think this is a better way for the card to be like the way the card should be intended. I think the nerf of having her not leave the void might have been the better one, because that would have made her just more playable in general. Now she is just essentially completely not good in any real deck. Although the foils look sweet, so I would still keep the foils. And I don't know if it's necessarily a reanimator target only. I think it also is just like open up space for other control decks, open up, avenues for other finishers. Maybe there are other reanimate targets that aren't going to be as lights out, but maybe a little more creative. So I think it's a really good nerf. I think it really opens up deck building possibilities and gameplay possibilities. And I mean, Felon is still really good. Like, Black Sky Harbinger and Champion are always going to be great, but I think this was the right thing to do to open up the meta and help the game overall.
I am, as someone who loves to play the card, I completely agree with this nerf as well. I think Vara to me always smelt of, I don't know if any of you guys played the Hearthstone, but Grand Crusader.
Yes.
In the sense that you needed to be massively ahead on board in order to not, like, if there was parity going into the late game against the Vara deck, you can never win. You need to be massively ahead on board, and that really limits what type of strategies you can. Like, I think the fact that most of the ETS thought Reanimator was too inconsistent led to we didn't see as much Reanimator as maybe we should have. But I think if this meta had been allowed to live in perpetuity, then eventually Vara decks would have kind of overwhelmed most of Tournament Eternal, because of the fact that late game and the way you can get to it semi-early is just kind of stood over everything else. So I kind of agree with the nerf a bunch, to be honest. I think it's a decent way to go, because she still has some space in, if there's like a shadow-based token deck or something that really wants to go wide, you can still
Deadly Rod.
Yeah, maybe.
Does that work with the ability?
Yes.
Keep going, Hulk.
That's actually a cool option. I've never
Let's
really
do
even thought about it. But you have a bunch
spiders or something.
you can play Madness and Ashura in that deck. It's pretty cool.
We got there. Dex made.
I learned on stream this weekend that Ashura has Deadly, because I attacked into her with my plated. I never even thought about the fact that the card had more text. The casters were like, "Why did he make that trade?" And I'm like, "Because I'm stupid." I never even read the card. It was crazy, but I really feel like the card was, compared to other types of top end that are in the game, because even the more oppressive top end cards, I think Ikaria is way more oppressive than people give her credit for. If you have a decent board state when she comes out, you have a decent shot at beating her. You can go wide over every other finisher in this game, but you can't do that versus Vara. And you can't go over, you can't go wide. You gotta use reach to kill the opponent. I don't know.
You have to have Steward of the Past.
Yeah, but even
or you have a Pharaoh if you're on.
Even with Steward, you could just play the opponent
Maiden plus Higher Shrill or something.
Or whatever.
Maiden plus Higher Shrill or something. Anyway.
So I feel in general that for the health of the game long term, I think this is a good choice. Even though
it hurts us.
You guys have looked at the Ember picture in the chat. First of all, I just want to say that you're a handsome man, Overmaster. That photo is you look. Oh, you look so good in that photo.
Are we talking about the football player with the tight pants or the guy holding the diploma? I'm confused.
No. The photo where he's Wolverine in the chat, where he's looking at the picture.
Oh, yeah.
In the chat.
You have a hot ass face. You look like the Donkey Kong guy from King of Kong.
That's what we all should aspire to be. Billy Mitchell? Oh, man. That's a bold statement.
He's a stud.
And you know what? That was at the end of a long semester. I had still had the facial hair going, and my hair was going wild because all I was doing was studying fucking electrical engineering. Like that was.
Darkness, do you want to make us sad?
Yeah. So I mean, I think I'm not a huge fan of this. I think it probably needed some sort of nerf, but I think it was complete overkill to just obliterate Vera from existence. As I think one of you mentioned before, just making it so Vera can't leave the void, or just not being able to chain Vera would have been fine, because I mean that's the big issue. Because against Felon control, the big thing is when you deal with the first Vera, assuming you don't have any silences, then they just they play a second Vera to get their first Vera back and champion. So now you have to deal with 2 Veras, and then you can finally start dealing with the champion. And by that point, you just don't have anywhere near enough removal to be able to do that. And I think at least if you're not chaining Veras, it's slightly easier to deal with. Because especially if you have flyers, then you can just kill the one Vera and then trade on board or whatever. The fly of your own or something. But yeah, I think something needed to be done, but I think this is way too far.
Okay.
So everybody, all together, do we think Vara is actually dead, or do you think that if not have a spot in the meta, at least is playable in some sort of meme deck?
Dead.
I think it's still playable in a meme deck, but
It's dead.
But dead in terms of a tier 1 strategy.
I think once a year you're gonna see her in the top 8 of the ETS in some type of combo.
I think.
Maybe. I doubt it.
it could only work with
6/6 do nothing? I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah, it can only work with Witching Hour, really.
means to an end is dead.
Deadly Rod, now lives supreme, is probably the only deck that can exploit Vera efficiently.
No,
You're
but
probably
if you
right.
play her with a bunch of black one drops, like the spiders and stuff, there's some.
Like I said, I'm pretty sure that
I'd rather just play Grenadines or Callus. What do I need Vara for? Play a bunch of
but Vera on its own isn't that good. The reason Vera was good is because it brought back Champion of Cunning. It's not good if you're bringing back one deadly dudes.
Yeah, and other just powerful cards.
I think Vara was good because she brought back Harbinger. I hated that play more than anything.
Chip.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
Which
she brought back Animist. That was what brought it.
oh yeah.
She brought back.
I mean, if my opponent brought back Animist, I was like, achievement unlocked. You deserve to win this game.
Yeah.
I think again we go back to Deadly Rod,
That play.
and I mean,
is Animus
Hey, Snow
also
Crush is
deadly
deadly.
yeah.
Oh my god. Let's do it.
Deadly Rod. Oh
So,
baby.
Do we want to get sad again and talk about the next card?
Oh
Yeah, let's move on.
There's this fire card that isn't oppressive, that they've already nerfed, I believe, twice. But let's talk about the card that needed some compensation, because they just took him outside and shot him, Soulfire Drake. I'll pull it up on the stream here, but basically Soulfire Drake was a top end, and if it cost any more, it would not be playable. Well, guess what? It cost a little more. It's no, Ricardo can't play this random 6-drop anymore. You just can't. Stonescar can't afford to pay 6. Skycrag can't afford to pay 6. This card's not even that good as a mid-range card anymore, because it might be competing with Heart of the Vault, or your setup turn for Vera.
You set up to.
Not Vera, Akaria, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I was being sad. Soulfire Drake went for being a good, reasonable top-end card. It got better with Steward getting nerfed. Don't get me wrong, that's true. That's what the patch just says, because of Steward, blah, 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 that's crap. That's not why this card's getting nerfed. Because this card, you play this card, the effect is nice. But also just being a flying charger is relevant. This card's good at just ending games. And yeah, the effect does win you games sometimes. But this card's not an oppressive card. It's a strong card. But I don't think this card really needed any changes. It wasn't the reason that maybe Ricardo was considered one of the best decks. It helped. worked, and it maybe was better than Deep Forge Plate right now, but maybe in a different world where maybe there's less removal, Plate's better anyways. I think Soulfire Drake might be dead. The world where it might not be is maybe like Charge Rod, but then you're competing with like your Heart of the Vault turn, and then you're playing Charge Rod,
and then you're playing Charge Rod.
Like I think Soulfire Drake maybe. I think Soulfire needed a buff on the attack and make it like a 6-mana 6/2 if you're gonna do something like this. I think this is too drastic of a nerf, or even a 6-mana 5/3 so it doesn't just die to Desert Marshal, something like that. Getting no compensation, I think, is too much damage for this card.
I think you're overselling or undervaluing what they said in the patch notes, and that it was not really a nerf to Soulfire Drake for that kind of thing. It was the fact that it was like every single deck played this as their 5-drop, and I think it was correct moving forward in all of our decks to play this as your 5-drop, because it was just the most powerful 5-drop in the game.
Definitely.
And so they nerfed it in order to increase diversity. Now, of course, diversity of 5-drops. Now, of course, they could have nerfed it back to where it was, not to 4/2, perhaps, and that would have been probably a better nerf. But increasing the cost kills in closed beta it was actually a 4/2. When they moved to open beta, it went from a 4/2 to 5/2, and it was actually double fire then. So they since have nerfed it to triple fire. But I think that if they had made this a 5-cost 4/2 or nerfed it in some other way in order to, but they basically just killed it here. Like you can't run a 6-mana 5/2. Like it's okay. I just don't think that you can run it anymore.
All right, so my opinion on this one is has actually nothing to do with Steward of the Past. Like, they talk about Steward of the Past, but I don't think that's the problem. I think that fundamentally, we used to have the Soulfire Drake directly competed with Obliterate, right? And Obliterate has gone worse as the game has gone on, because the fact is Obliterate was better than Soulfire Drake in set 1 after the nerf.
Yeah.
It's a lot worse now because of the card Cobalt Monument.
It's Cobalt Monument.
Waystone.
It's Cobalt Waystone, and it's the Amethyst Waystone, and the... not Amethyst. It's all the Waystone.
I think the biggest nerf to Obliterate that never gets talked about is the fact that Flame Blast got nerfed. Like, you can no longer pay critical amounts of burn in your deck, so Obliterate gets much worse because of that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying burn in general got a lot worse because we have a lot more inadvertent life gain or face ages. And when you put the two of those together, you basically have inadvertent life gain. Yeah. Just prevalent throughout the meta. Like, every deck that is currently playing that is not an aggro deck has some free life gain somewhere.
Hell, even Rakano is an aggro deck and plays life gain cards.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because Whirling Duo is amazing.
And Commando?
Commando.
Right, yeah, Commando.
Which also I wish got a little changed. I think that card needed to have the effect only if it attacks.
I think I've seen Commando is perfect the way it is, personally.
I don't think so. I think that they underestimated how good it was, but anyway.
Well, I like the way it drives the 3-drop slot, and it drives combat more than anything else. I like that a lot. I don't have much to say about Soulfire Drake. I agree with everything you guys have said. I think that their point about how it's the finisher of choice, and they want to see what other cards people come up with. I mean, I wonder too if they're really sort of against these non-counterplay effects, like the way they talk about Echo and Destiny and Charge with this. Like, I bet if Soulfire Drake, it's the Charge thing that probably bothers them more than anything else. The fact that it can just come off the top and then can make the rest of your deck just come off the top, and people feel like they have no chance to play against it, which, I understand how you want to be wary of those things, but to some level, you want to have these really powerful, rewarding effects. Like, it's turn 5. It was so hard to play. And I mean, we all lost games where we just didn't have the third fire. So I understand what their argument for nerfing it, but I don't necessarily think it was necessary in this way. And I'm not exactly sure what kind of change they're looking to make to these decks to the meta that's going to be different, because there's always going to be some 5-cost, finish the game on the spot card that has very limited counterplay. That's what you want your top end aggro thing to be. So I don't even understand what they expect Soulfire Drake's nerf.
Or we just don't go to top end
or the deck fundamentally.
Yeah, we just don't go to the. That's one of the things that's probably going to happen is that people are going to pull back on that top end, and we're going to have much more trying to be faster.
Yeah, like something like maybe Rally got better. I don't think it did, but like I'm just tossing a thought here. Like,
I think it did.
Well, I think Rally's dead.
But
Rally's dead.
We'll talk about that deck later as one of the things that probably got indirectly hit. But we still have more thoughts on this card.
But well,
I'm gonna go completely against the grain. I love this nerf.
Oh, I love it. I'm not arguing with it.
No.
I'm just saying why it happened.
Because a lot of you guys said you were kind of angry about it. I think this really needed to happen. I like Soulfire Drake being in the game as a kind of a scalpel type card. Like I think if Chalice, for example, ever gets 2 good cards, like even a 6-mana Soulfire Drake is gonna like turn that matchup into it's gonna slice through it like butter. So I think the card existing is nice, but I think it was for the longest time maybe the most underplayed card in the game, and like a lot of decks should have just played 4 because whenever you see someone draw this card, it feels like they can't lose, especially if they draw 2. It's like, I don't know. Whenever I watch those matches, I just feel like, why aren't everybody playing 4 of this card? Because it just seems unlosable to the player drawing double drakes. To me, it's the type of card that it's so powerful unanswered that you almost always win the game. And even if they answer it, there's still like some upside. I think the effect it has on your deck is a little bit undervalued. It's probably closer to a card than most people realize. Even though there's some randomness baked into it, I think having it in the game is not really good. Like, just look at the deck I made top 8 with this week in the tournament. The whole idea is I can play the worst mono base of all time because all of my cards do something when they enter play. So even if the opponent removes them, I get value. That's good enough to top 8, even though your mono base sets you like a turn and a half behind every turn. And this card is like the epitome of that. It hits your opponent for 5 immediately, so you get effect. And even if they kill it, you get something. It's impossible to answer efficiently.
Yeah, but I really like that about your deck. I like the idea of you're trading consistent mana for powerful value on your cards. I think that's a really interesting kind of deck to have, especially one that's more aggro-driven as opposed to defense-driven.
Yeah, but I think it says something kind of bad about the metagame. It's what happened to Magic occasionally, where... Like I think now maybe you can see that with all the energy cards where removal is like efficient but kind of narrow, which means that all people want to do in this game is like avoid as much removal as possible. Like all of the top decks right now, what they do is they try to blank as much of the removal suite of the opponent as they can. I don't know if that's a healthy place to be, and I think Soulfire Drake kind of was like the
epitome of that.
That's an interesting. That's an interesting way to look at it. I could see if that's your argument, then Soulfire Drake would be the epitome of like blanking removal for infinite.
What I will say though is there's I think Charge Rod actually got buffed because of this, because now people have a reason not to play Heart of the Vault in that deck, and I think that made the deck almost always worse.
Why was Heart of the Vault in that deck in the first place?
I have no idea. Like I think
it's like the best card in the game.
Because you can.
I love Heart of the Vault. I got my 4/4 playset.
I think it was because you can.
Because you can put it because of the 1-mana 1/1. It has warp as well. You can still get it off of Dire Binding. Or
that's such a terrible reason. I'd rather do anything else with Charge personally.
Yeah, like I always felt like when you played against that deck, whenever they play Heart, you would like draw your hand across your forehead in relief because anything else they could have done would have been so much worse.
I mean, the problem is there isn't enough like charge units that are decent. But so you kind of had to play Heart.
Yeah, but I think this kind of forces innovation on that deck. So I think Charge Rod might still, or is still gonna exist, and it might even be better because it forces innovation. Like the deck, the perfect Charge Rod might not be better, but I think we're gonna see a better Charge Rod deck in the metagame now because it forces innovation upon the archetype.
Interesting. Darkness?
That's one.
Yeah, I mean for Soulfire Drake, again, I think this is a bit overkill. Like as I forget who it was mentioned, but you can make it like a 4/2, I think Overmaster, or you could do something like, I don't know, like give only the top unit flying and charge or something like that. Just weaken its effect, so it's not as much just like I win the game even if this dies, basically, if the game goes long enough. But I'm also not really a fan of just them hitting aggro again, at least from a tournament perspective. I think aggro's in a bad spot already as it is. Rakano's decent, but the other decks really are not. So, I personally would have nerfed something like Unseen Commando instead, because that's a whole hell of a lot more of a prevalent deck.
Never.
Dark
I love
card,
Commando.
Just because that any Justice deck basically plays that, unless it's like a super control deck. So, I guess those are my thoughts. But yeah.
All right.
I think we should also go over the rally thing here, just because it was brought up.
Sure.
I think Darkness has the big point on this one.
Rally, I think Rally got better just because Felm's dead. Like that's the Felm matchup is basically unwinnable.
That's your worst
match,
because
it's I'm honestly not sure how you win that post board. Like they have 12 sweepers and 12 lifesteal effects, and so I'm pretty sure unless they punt every turn, it is literally unwinnable. At least post board.
Setback too.
Yeah, they have setback, they have storm, they have extract,
Harbinger.
Post board, they have Harbinger, they have Rindra. Just how are you supposed to
I
get?
don't think you do.
The whole thing about Rally is you're basically just, I'm going to kill you before you draw one of your answers. And if they have 20 answers, they're going to have one in the when they start the game in their opening hand. So it's pretty unwinnable. Certainly post board. Maybe pre board you have a slight chance, but I think that helped. I think some of the life gain changes aren't actually that big of a deal. I still think Setback and Alchemist are very hard to deal with, but I think those are the main issues, not really cards like Raider or Lunar Magus.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about my favorite change. Goodbye,
Mine too.
Protect. Oh, yes. I hate this card. I hate that you have a card that is, if you have any, sure, the cons of this card is that sometimes it gets stuck in your hand as a completely dead card. But there are so many games where it's okay, your opponent had a good curve. Maybe they went, I'm just going to use aggro combo as an example. Turn 2 Student, turn 3 Seraph, and then from there on, any development they have, because they're stuck there with a protected head, it doesn't matter what you do. The card was so efficient that when you spend 1 mana to blank my entire turn because I needed to cast Death Strike, well, you still got to develop for the turn. That's just not cool, man. And also, this hurts Archer Port a fair bit, but I don't think a ton. But the idea of being able to still be mana efficient while protecting your spells, isn't that fun to play against? And there's not a lot of counterplay to it. If you look at Magic, this problem has happened before where maybe a card like Dispel was in the format. But the problem is Protect can stop something like Carthrow, which Dispel couldn't. When you have to spend 2 or 3 mana to protect your dudes, it's a lot easier to play around, or your opponent needs to actually make the decision of, do I want to develop or do I want to protect what I have? I can't do both. Protect now costing 2. I think it will see a little bit of play still, but then I wonder, especially in Comrade, then why am I not playing Stand Together? Because the difference of leaving 2 and 3 mana up in that deck is actually not very much. I think it was way too efficient, and it created a lot of feel-bad games. I'm very happy it got nerfed. I think it needed to be nerfed a while ago, and I was very surprised when the original patch didn't nerf it. So overall, I think the card's not going to see as much play, and I think it'll still see fringe play. But I think at 2 power, it's not particularly exciting to play anymore, thankfully.
Yeah, with regards to the Stand Together versus Protectivate there, I think people should have been playing Stand Together over Protect in their big combo decks to begin with.
Yeah, definitely.
To begin with. So now the fact that now the fact Protect is gone, now people aren't debated by the Protect and for the big combo decks is probably going to make big combo a little better, just by I don't know, by virtue, I guess. But yeah, I just completely agree with everything you said. I think Protect was just way too efficient in what it did. It was just too powerful. And it was whenever you saw that pause on 1, Oh well, Hulk doesn't really see the pause, but
I don't.
but whenever you saw that pause on one, you were just like, "Oh no, I'm dead. I can't do anything." Right? Like, and all they have to do is hold up one power every turn. It's just to blank your like the 3 power, like blank your Slay, for example. It's just not something that I think should have been part of the game to begin with, and I was weirded out when they didn't change it for the last patch, but I'm glad they updated their change for this one. Yeah.
Who's next?
Tatavath.
I have nothing to say about this that hasn't already been said.
Trystero?
I actually have a lot of thoughts about this. I personally don't like this. I understand all those arguments about the huge swings it would create. I really enjoyed, but I wasn't someone who thought Protect should just be automatic in every deck. I really enjoyed exploring the space of where you want something like Protect, which is purely does nothing unless your opponent does something, unless you're trying to like just randomly give your guys ages. But again, like the tension between proactive cards and reactive cards, and also the gameplay in terms of getting your opponent to misuse their Protect or playing around it. I really enjoyed that aspect. And the fact that it cost 2 is probably the right decision. I mean, it definitely was way too much of a swingy get out of jail free card, so I get that. But I really enjoyed the fact that Protect offered a lot of ways to think about how you build your deck if you really got into it, like the Protect Stand Together debate, or like I like to think about Protect and like Finest Hour, the tension between those two. Like, for example, if you had a meta where removal was really damage-based, Protect was really bad, like against Armory, because, you know, Finest Hour would just be better, and if removal was really just removal-based, then you would want Protect. So I really enjoyed that, and I enjoyed the play Protect offered. I definitely got blown out many times, and I hated that card. But overall, I think Protect was fine the way it was, and I think it offered a lot of interesting gameplay, even though a lot of times it didn't feel like it. So I'm ambivalent about this nerf. I understand the argument, but I'm not sure I like it.
To me, it sits really badly. I'm not gonna lie. I've been pretty like adamant about saying that I think the best way to win an Eternal is to do something powerful on turn 2. And I think this nerf makes the game even more like whoever draws their powerful turn 2 play is going to have an even higher win percentage right now, or whoever draws a turn 2 play and an answer for the opponents. Because before there was, if your opponent had like an instigator and a removal spell, and you had an instigator but no removal spell, you probably lost the game. But you could have a Protect and kind of even that out. And I just feel like where the game sits right now, it really sits badly with me to take away a card like Protect, because it lets you like kind of, at the same time though, it also enforces, like if you have the Protect and the remove, that's probably even more powerful. But in general, I don't like when they take away efficiency from interaction in these type of games. I think it in general hurts the game. And I think Protect was maybe the card where the skilled players could leverage their skill. There's so many interesting tricks.
Absolutely, I totally agree.
Like so many, like main turn Protect my dude, so while the opponent is tapped out. There's a lot.
Exactly.
I know he has Protect, so I can fake not having this removal spell on an earlier turn, so he won't cast this on his turn, and then that lets me combo removal spells. There's so much counterplay in the card. I just love.
I agree with that, but I still think it was too powerful, right? I just think it was too powerful and needed to be changed.
What I will say is I still think it's probably the best counterspell in the game. It's still going to see a ton of play. It's just not going to be the type of card it was before.
Right, and I would make the caveat that it was really powerful and it was overpowered if you knew how to use it properly. I don't think it was I think that it really was a testament to, if you understood the way you use that card and the power level of that card, it was overpowered. But you had to learn that. I don't think it was intuitively so overpowered and so obviously a problem.
Yeah, and like if you were the better player up on the opposite side of a Protect, there was a lot of ways to make it much worse. Like
definitely,
there's a ton of ways to play against Protect, but what I think might be a good effect on the meta though right now is that it puts a lot, like it lets you play removal like Death Strike a lot more liberally, which kind of puts less pressure on the removal suites of most decks. So we might see, like, I think this opens up for more
less removal. You can have less removal decks now because of Protect.
Yeah,
That's protecting the meta, kind
you
of.
can have wider but less efficient removal too. There's not the risk of the blowout, which I think is probably going to be a good thing for the meta overall. But I don't know. I like card games when they're efficient and powerful. So I don't know. This stinks of Siege Rhino to me, and I don't really like that. But
yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this either. I think the game needs at least some playable counterspell. I think this is just going to wreck it. Holding up 2 power every turn to use it is just going to be way too hard, and it's not like something like Stand Together where you can actually just play it like main phase and still be fine. At least while it was certainly pushed at 1, it was like you said, it was a very interesting card to play around, and I think it like made removal risky basically, because you had to worry about them having Protect or whatever, and like waiting until they tapped out or whatever. And now that's gone, and you can just do removal willy-nilly. I think this is going to be a massive buff to removal pile, and because while they still have to deal with sabotage.
Hello, the next change, Darkness. The next change.
Protect is still like a Protect was the main card they were worried about, and Sabotage. Protect and Sabotage. Sabotage still exists, but now all the Justice decks
to protect against hand removal was kind of ridiculous as well.
That felt bad, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. They could have, personally, I would have just moved Protect into Primal, because I think one of the dumb things is that Primal is supposed to be the counterspell faction, and yet Justice.
Yeah, I can see that. That's a really
okay
nice
with
change.
that.
Had the best. Justice had the best counterspell and Protect, so I think. Yeah, it was probably a bit pushed. I think there were ways, like with the other cards I mentioned, there were ways to do it without completely nuking the card. So I would have liked to see that, but
Could have been
I'm not a fan of this.
How would you do that? Would you
just make it 1 cost Primal? I think Primal's just not a very good faction right now. That probably would be.
Yes, color shift.
Yeah, you would have
that
just
would
changed
have
it.
been really interesting. Yeah,
I
making
think
it
it would
primal.
be worse than it
that.
is, and it would be
That's-
playable in Primal decks.
That's
the
probably
best counterspell in the game now is probably Alan's Intervention.
I don't know about that.
I would
That card
agree.
is really powerful and super underplayed.
Oh yeah, I just don't think it's the best one.
Stupidly good, actually.
You want
say
to? Go ahead.
I'd say it's probably Sabotage, even though it's not technically a counterspell. It's just the best way to deal with your opponent's spells. Really.
You guys want to talk about something that's stupidly good in certain cases? Want a poster?
The amount of times that GHP has
John 2.
fucked me over with this card.
By the way, I finally got to play 4 wanted posters and kill something last night. I conceded on the spot. I think
Have you guys ever played 4 wanted posters and then passed the turn?
I got to rush.
I've done that.
So I can't believe I'm going to say this, because everyone knows I was the biggest wanted poster hater, so I'm just going to get this part off my chest. Wanted poster was still absolute garbage in something like Akari and Blue. And people playing it were wrong. But I think at 2 costs, this card is still playable in removal pile. That deck needs card draw. This does stop the, wanted poster, torture, Oni running, have fun. This does stop the poster, annihilate your Titan, have fun. But I still think the card might still be good enough. Yes, it hurts the meta efficiency of the deck. Yes, it makes this card worse, that's not questionable. But I think the card is still going to see play in the decks that really need card draw injustice. I think this card was oppressive in certain situations. When you pay 1 mana instead of 3 mana for your draw 2, yeah, that's pretty good. I think the card still has merits. I think Removal Pile still plays it. Maybe it shifts its removal suite a little bit to play this card but as chat just said, 2 mana draw 2 is still good. But I like strategize. You don't have to put it on bottom. Now, obviously, there's a difference in the cards, but I think this card's still good in the decks that need it, and I don't think this is gonna change that.
Yeah, I agree. With it that that Wanted Poster. Well, I agree with the change for one thing. I agree that Wanted Poster needed to change. Like it's just now it's much harder to fit your removal plus Wanted Poster into your curve, which is so much of a welcome change. Like just having a draw 2 in addition to your removal spell was just kind of ridiculous.
It was impressive.
With the way the game's played. It's not like too powerful in a general sense, right? But in the specific decks that it was going into, it was just way too powerful, I think.
Can I say something just about the power level of the card?
Yeah.
Really quick. I think it's not so much that it was too powerful, but the problem is that because there's so few card draw spells in the game, the decks that play Wanted Poster, most of the time that strategy does not have access to card draw. So you play against it like they don't, and then all of a sudden they get to draw 2 and be up cards. And that means the way you're attacking them all of a sudden has to be completely different. So, but since there are 75 cards in your deck, you can't count on them having the posters. You still have to play against them like they don't. It just creates this really weird interplay where...
Yeah. If this was for example, in Primal, or even anything other than Justice, to be honest.
I would have loved it in Fire. I think that would have been awesome.
Well... Yeah, actually, it would have been sweet in Fire. It would maybe create a fire base. Although to be fair, if it was in Fire, it would still be in removal pile, which would still suck.
Yeah, for sure. I just love the flavor of it from a Fire perspective.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Yeah, I do agree. It was more flavorful, but I just think that it was too powerful and needed to be changed. That's all.
Tatavath?
All right. My opinion on this is that Wanted Poster is fine, and the change is fine, and I don't really care that much. I do think it helps a lot for how we want to play this game, but I don't think it, fixes or causes any new fundamental problems. I do have to say, though, that the assessment that it's better than Strategize is probably wrong. Because Strategize is basically draw 2. Anytime you use it properly.
Yeah, now I think it's worse than Strategize.
Not in a deck that wants to cast Ikaria, though. Because in a deck that wants to cast Ikaria, you need to get to 7. And that means you need raw cards.
Yeah.
But,
card selection is still better in many ways than having to spend a large amount of...
You're basically discarding a card to draw 2, right? You're replacing one.
Discarding 2 cards usually. It was basically saying, play a removal spell, play this card, draw 2. So imagine you had a removal. Basically, I saw Wanted Poster as 2 mana removal spell because it was always best with Torch.
The amount of times you had to use it as like a discard 2 to draw 2 was so minor, and people who were doing it like that were probably playing the card wrong, right?
Cycle's good. I don't think any of us are going to argue with that, and that's what I saw.
So I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this nerf. I think Wanted Poster was much better than they thought it was, and I think you do
anybody thought it was
about 1 mana draw spells, especially when it opens up card draw to decks that don't normally have it. And the way it makes these decks that really want to hit their key cards as often as possible. It helps the consistency in a crazy way, especially if it costs 1. So I think this nerf is interesting for what goes forward with how removal decks and how justice-based control decks find their key pieces. That said, I think the card is dead. I don't think you can play it anymore. Just remember Inspire. Remember the difference. Inspire was in every deck, and it was amazing. And then it went to 2 mana. It's the exact same card, but now it's 2. You cannot play it anymore. So I think at 2 mana, it is absolutely unplayable. I think taking 2 mana to try to cycle is just so much worse than 1 mana. And I think you're going to have to find some other way to make up that difference. Now that Protect costs 1, maybe you can have your spells cost a little more. But I think at 2 mana, Wanted Poster is no longer the card it used to be. I think it's totally dead. And I'm not sure if I think it was a little bit too preemptive in terms of how the card introduced the way you think about card draw and cycle. And also the way, like people who are playing it wrong, but if you knew card games, you can kind of intuitively, get with that whole 1 mana draw 2 cycle. So I'm not sure I like this nerf, but I understand why they did it. But I think the card's just dead. I don't think you're going to see it anymore, just like Inspire.
I completely disagree with you. I think all the decks that play 4 now are still going to play 4. I don't think anything changes at all. Because the access to pure card advantage in this game is so powerful I think the game needs more of it, not less. Like I would have loved for them to print another draw 2 in Primal, for example. I think that's what the color is missing. Like the fact that you cannot consistently draw 2 cards every game in Primal is probably the main reason the color is so underplayed.
I mean, I would play 6 mana, draw 3.
Exactly. Like people play fucking Swindle, and that card is garbage. But what I will say is I really like this nerf because it screws the lens on the card to the more interest. Like I think the card plays way more interestingly now. But where you're gonna see a lot more Wanted Poster your guy past the turn. The place where the card is interesting instead of just a draw 2, because like there would still be games where they're like, oh, I play Wanted Poster, so you don't want to attack here, and then I can maybe kill your dude later, or there was that interplay, but you would rarely see it because it was just better to draw 2 the turn you played removal. But now there's more of that. So I think as a viewer and like as a lover of the game, I think this change is great, and I believe the decks that play Wanted Poster want a draw 2 enough where I don't think the change makes any kind of difference. It makes them a little bit worse, but I still think they play 4. So I completely disagree with you.
I agree with you, Hulk, on that one. Yeah. I'm just
all right.
I mean,
I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, in a vacuum, I really despise this change because I think the last thing Eternal needs is to be less consistent.
Oh God, yes.
But I think just like because there's already not really that much good card draw. I kind of needed at least a slight nerf. I think this might have been a bit too much, but at least off the top of my head, I can't think of any way to change it without sort of just upping it to 2 cost.
Make it a primal card, or
always back to the primal cards.
Make Primal good again.
Fire, make it.
No.
Well, it sounds like this will be fun to test. I look forward to testing with the 2 mana and see how different it really is. Because I really do think the card's dead now. But yeah, I guess I'll have to be proven wrong.
I think it's very interesting as just sort of a just play it, then do it the next, remove the stuff in the next turn. I think it's pretty much dead if you think it's only basically going to be, if you're trying to use it as play and get the cards this turn. So it's really how much does it hurt to get the cards the turn after you play it?
And give your opponent a chance to respond. I mean, I guess that might be interesting because they have to do something like a silence on their own.
Silence their own.
Falcon Forcer stuff, but yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely an interesting change. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I think given the situations...
I do like your point about there needs to be more consistency in Eternal and card draw, although I do think that Justice-based control decks need to have less consistency. So I'm glad to see this change.
The reason they need to have less is because the rest of the game has none. It would be better if the rest of the game also had consistency.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah.
Just make Inspire back to 1 cost, and also make it neutral faction. They're perfect.
Introduce 4 of it every
That would be amazing. I would love
that would be
Inspire. Out of 4 of it every deck. That would be awesome.
Make a 71 card deck.
71 card deck, yeah. I don't even think I'd complain, to be honest.
Nope.
As long as everyone had it, I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, or I mean, it doesn't have to actually be neutral faction, but everyone needs something like Inspire.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to be inspired. I think that.
A 1 mana draw 1 with some effect in every class could be cool. That all are actually not that are playable, obviously.
Yeah, make Levitate always decent. Just make Levitate that can hit on an empty board, and then perfect. So you got your primal one.
Who wants to talk about maybe the most pointless change in the patch? So Powder Alchemist, ladies and gentlemen.
I have no comment. You can skip me for this one. I could care less. I don't know why they do things 2 more instead of 1/2s, but whatever.
So the things that this matters to: Vera's favorite, Vicious Highwayman, Grenadins. Those are the cards that get a buff from this. So basically every Highwayman deck that wasn't actually Stonescar shouldn't have been playing Highwayman. And when people eventually realize that, that'll be cool. I think
no, I think Highwayman's pretty efficient, but
I don't think it's good at removal pile, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm referring to.
oh yeah, I don't think it's good.
I love using
fine.
it to pop Aegis in that deck. I thought that was so powerful that you
I think that's a cute way to do it, yeah. But I don't think the card's good enough in the metagame. But it's not really the card we're reviewing. It's just one of the cards that gets better. I think Grenadins does care about this change, but I don't think this makes Stone Powder Alchemist. I don't think this card loses playability because it has one less health. It still blocks Oni Rodent. It still blocks insert card here that it wanted to block. Obviously, the big one, I guess, is when your opponent goes Grenadin Drone and you slam this on the board and someone got really sad.
oh no, you lose 2 Grenadins instead of 1.
But I really don't. Sorry, I really don't think this change means fuck all.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with all that.
But the thing is that way back when there was this little card called Crown Watch Paladin, and there's also a little card called Desert Marshal, and they were both changed to be 2/1s, and it did affect their playability. So we'll see whether or not it affects playability. I don't think it will. I also don't think it will. I agree with you, but it did change the playability of both Desert Marshal and Crown Watch Paladin and how it played out in the game. So we'll see. I mean, Stone Powder Alchemist was too powerful as a 3-mana 2/2 with lifesteal. Like it was just way too more powerful. I think it was too powerful, but I also think that this was probably the worst way to go around about fixing it. I think they should have just made it back to 4 power. I don't know. Anyway.
Or change Revenge.
Or change Revenge. But I think we've all agreed we just want Revenge changed.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I gotta tap out for the rest of the. I got things to do, and I think I talk about everything I want to talk about. To be perfectly honest.
That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think we have more than enough people covering. So
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Good luck. Good luck to the rest of you guys. I'll see you around.
All right. See you, bud.
All right, see ya.
Later, chat. Later, guys.
Okay, so you guys want to know a secret about Stone Power Alchemist? Come real close.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
The card was never good. It wasn't even good at 3-mana 2/2. It sucks. And I think this makes the card better for people because now they're not going to put it in their deck. And, like, is there any card in the game where you play any deck that isn't like specifically Yito, where the opponent plays Stone Power Alchemist and you don't go, phew? That was great, because now I don't have to worry about an actual card. Like, I think it might have been the most overplayed card in the game. I don't know. I think the card almost gets better here because it's easier for you to kill your own Alchemist, which kind of like opens up for more. If there was an Echo card, like the Echo cards that existed, I think this would actually be a buff. But as it stands now, I just think the card was never good, and now it's easier to not put it in your deck, so it probably gets better because you don't play it.
Interesting. That's all I'm giving you is interesting.
The card was never good.
Yeah, I mean, I think the card was only really good against, like, very aggressive matchups. I think it's the one matchup where this changes a lot is, like, Burn Queen, if people actually play that still. Because, yeah, now Highwayman and Vera's Favor are ways to kill it, but, I mean, it's not really that massive of a deal because Revenge is a thing, so you're, like Hulk said, you're just getting it back faster now. So it's almost a buff in certain ways. It's really only a nerf when they kill it the second time. That's when it actually becomes like a slight nerf, but I think this is pretty meaningless change. But yeah.
I mean, it might be it might have some more value in some kind of crown list now, like because since it's easier to kill and get, I could see some type of crown list trying to get there with it. And they sure as hell could before, but I mean that's interesting.
I think we should just go on. I don't think any of us have anything to say.
Yeah. All right. So you guys have the 3 draft cards in front of you. None of us are really big drafters from what I understand, so we should probably just talk about Constructed.
Yeah.
I
Only
think
one
most
of these
Although
is-
I will say, entrapment going to for justice is kind of like what Hulk is saying about Stone Powder Alchemist. People who actually were putting entrapment in their deck, like this actually makes it less likely that they'll put it in the
Yeah, I
deck,
don't
which
think
is
it's
good.
constructed playable anymore. And
I think they actually buffed the card and trap.
It was
Yeah.
constructed playable in Mono Justice, but that's it, I think.
yeah, this costing
Okay.
4 is still good in draft and stuff, but I just don't think it's good for constructed anymore.
I mean, a deck that needs a card like Entrapment, like say there is a deck that really needs the specific card Entrapment, you can still play it on 4 mana. Like, there could be a deck where that is the best removal spell for you in this specific circumstance. But at that point, you can still play it. It doesn't really matter.
I guess we're talking about Modern Justice then.
I guess all I was going to say about this is this proves something that we've already kind of known, which is set 1 removal is too good.
Yeah.
And they've been weakening removal levels ever since, which is hilarious.
Yeah, but they don't want to make the rest of the game catch up to the set 1 removal. I think it's a philosophy I don't really agree with. I would have loved that the entire game was that efficient and Eternal was just really, really powerful. That would have been a really cool game to play. But the way it is now, it's very...
It's all about trying to find
very
something powerful
standardy.
to do because they're trying to make it less powerful.
Yeah.
I think that's all we have to say on that card.
Yeah. Is there any
Go ahead.
Is there a difference with Last Light?
They reworked it, so it's it's a new card.
Oh, I don't think it's a.
It probably got better, right?
It's better, but I think it's cool. I think people are going to want to play with it more. I just don't think it's good.
No, I think it got worse.
Interesting.
Didn't it? Because it cost 4 instead of 3.
Yeah, but it has an immediate effect. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a good
I'm
3-drop. And it's not a good 4-drop either, but when you play it on 4, at least you upgrade your board that turn.
Last Light Druid actually is a really cool design space. That's all I'm about it.
Like if in some kind of time primal deck, I could see this as a turn 5 play being pretty powerful.
Interesting.
Or like turn 4 with Initiate. If you have 4 creatures on the board by then, that's a lot of power.
Yeah.
Does it transform itself or no? Oh yeah, other unit. Okay.
No.
Other.
Oh, is it each other unit you play this turn? Never
Wait,
mind.
oh, it's this turn?
Oh,
Okay, this
God,
card's
the card
shit.
doesn't-
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything.
Okay,
Never mind.
back card. Next card. Alright, Into the Furnace. Playable.
Probably.
For sure.
It
I
is
thought
now
was
the new
playable before.
Torch in Grenadines.
Hold on a second. I'm going to bring that one up.
It's
I have to actually look at this card. Yeah, I don't know what it does.
It's 2 damage, double damage if you control a Grenadine.
and it's now
So
fast.
now it's a 2 mana, but it's
2
to a
mana.
unit.
Yeah.
Units.
Yeah, but
so
Grenadines doesn't care.
it might care the fact that it only deals 4 damage to a unit, which means that it doesn't take out a lot of the problematic cards like Titan
Sure.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't think this matters at all.
I think it's
Maybe-
better than Torch in Grenadines.
Maybe some weird spell card.
Yeah, but we didn't play Torch.
Yeah,
We didn't.
but the question is, do you play Torch? Some do.
I didn't play Torch in Grenadines for the most part. Maybe I was wrong, but because of Commando now in the meta game, which it wasn't when I was experimenting with Grenadines. But yeah,
I think it opens up the strategy for more like aggressive. Like Grenadines had to be a control deck.
Yeah.
And now, like with access to both Torch and Into the Furnace,
call.
and you can play Obliterate with Combustion Cellars. There might be some kind of synergy there. There's certainly the option for a more reach heavy Grenadine deck now, which
that's not a reach. That's not a reach card. Though it's 2 damage to a unit. So
no. Oh, you can't hit face.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
only,
you can't hit face.
If it was a
never
2 mana
mind.
deal 4 to face, that's pretty good. Like when Purge of the Darkness came out, multiple people here toyed with a burn deck, and it wasn't good enough yet. But like if that hit face, that's a pretty good card for burn, but it doesn't.
Never mind. Never mind.
Let's see if it has any more thoughts and move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Topper Tower.
Okay.
It has an extra health. Whatever.
Who cares?
Yay.
Yeah.
Maybe we
Yay.
can scream it now.
Except for the fact that it has 5 health over 4 health doesn't
I
matter.
will say if you play it as a free 5 on turn 3, or like and then it keeps growing. It's actually a pretty powerful payoff.
Oh yeah.
Topple Tower's 4 cost though, right?
Problem is
Three.
it-
No,
That was 3. Oh.
and we might see a lot less Annihilate in the game now because of the Protect nerf.
If
maybe.
if there,
Yeah,
I
the-
think Combre might have gotten a little better, maybe. Depends what like the meta shakes out to be. Obviously, does not dying to hammer matter? Not dying to hammer does technically matter. It's the problem is that doesn't fix why Topple Tower's a problem. Topple Tower's issues is it dies to like silence so easily.
That actually does fix a lot of the problems.
It also doesn't
to be
die
honest.
to Into the Furnace.
For that mirror tech.
You know what? In the mirror, Topple Tower is your worst card because you can madness that
Yeah.
card, and sometimes your void's bigger than their void.
a Marion Shoveler.
Awesome change.
It's also actually really cool in the sideboard. Like if you have the sideboard card that gives you greater than charge, and they sweep your the big 7 drop, this thing can attack with charge for like 15.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's actually
It can never attack for 15. It would attack for 16 or 14.
Well,
Oh,
it could get
Yeah.
bailiffed. Whoa.
It's plus 2
2
attack for each granite in your
Yeah.
board. Yeah.
This is powerful. Like,
Yeah, it is.
I think this actually opens up granite. Like if it's 2 for each, that's really powerful.
Well, the problem
I'm
is
gonna try it.
it's the same problem with like cards like Champ of Progress or Idol of Destra, and just it needs Overwhelm really, like to do stuff. I think.
But you have, you
but
have
I mean, they have to
madness.
chump it forever. I
Maybe
don't
it's
know.
a better sideboard card now. Maybe you're right.
Anyhow,
I-
let's go into
I
Marin
think-
Shoveler because I think we've all kind of exhausted the point of this card.
Oh my god.
But
Jesus Christ.
I will brew with this card. I think this is a powerful strategy.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Topple
I agree.
Tower has potential. This card, on the other hand, has no potential.
Ah!
What do you?
That
No,
It's-
I disagree with that.
I
completely.
think this change
American
is really
Traveler
big, and I think this is okay. It's nothing special. It might
If it
not
was
make,
0,
it might not make the cut for the deck because it's such a low impact card when it enters, but it might be okay. It's just a little bit of a value engine.
Who's playing
late game.
Sentinel Tribal though?
How about you play it in Sentinel Reanimator Darkness?
They actually pumped up a few of the
Yeah,
Sentinels
we're gonna get to
and,
that.
and relic stuff.
This is
so.
the thing, guys.
Pet Sentry, baby.
Elysian Sentinel Reanimator.
Why the Legion?
Not joking.
Yeah,
We
okay.
now have like 6 looters you can play
Oh,
that
yeah.
are explorers.
Oh,
Yeah,
True.
Oh,
true. Good
no,
call.
but the problem is you can't discard a Sentinel with this, so you can't really reanimate.
That's fine. You just put it away with your Nocturnal Observer. But
Yeah,
I think
no.
this card is now playable in Sentinel Reanimator, hopefully. I think this card's cool. I'm happy this change happened. I kind of hope I get to play it and not hate it. Like, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try Sentinel Reanimator. What's the patch
Is she an
drops?
explorer as well?
She is, which is relevant.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's very relevant.
Yeah, she is an explorer.
I think she's okay now, costing
you-
only
you
1 to
cannot-
activate.
You can also play her with 4 dig site and 4 obelisk, and having anybody that is an explorer is actually good.
That's
like
true.
if you have both of those cards, any explorer, no matter how small, is a real threat. So that's I think she might there might be a difference here.
Cool. I think this card's got some legs now.
Yeah, I think the fact that it costs two to just draw a card before, and you didn't really draw a card, was kind of bad, and now it's actually decent and playable. I don't know. I'm excited to just see it in play.
Pre-patch, everybody knew that I really like this card called Lunar Magus. I was playing it in Combre at times and things like that. Alright! Thank you for the auto host, Yotabite. Now that it's a 3/4, I think this card is really good. And I thought it was good before. I think this card is one of the things that would help make a Life Force deck playable. Now the question
I think it's
is,
really bad in one matchup now than it used to be. Or not matchup, sorry, one deck. Which is, I think there was a slot for it in Chalice before, and now it doesn't
so
fit.
like a Chaliceable, which is true.
Yeah.
I think this
Yeah, but
card
you
is
got a new one.
powerful now. I think if Life Force exists, this card's just good in it. I think it's... I'm gonna say it. I think it's better than Cabre Healer. Debate that.
I disagree.
Debate that with me in a second here.
I agree.
I think this card is really good. I think you're gonna feel real bad when your opponent goes turn 3 Lunar Magus and you're playing aggro. I think this
I'm-
card's
I'm
really
gonna-
good.
I'm gonna go even harsher. I'm gonna say it's better than Seraph. I'm pretty sure. It's
Why
so
not
much
both?
more immediate. It's so much more immediate than Seraph now.
Yeah, you actually get a card and stuff out of this. You
card's
cycle
real
in a deck
good.
potentially.
4 life, maybe, or 3, I guess, but 4 life.
That's a lot. Yeah. This card's powerful now.
Well, sure, it dies to annihilate, but if it dies to annihilate, then
Nice
your
Titan.
your Titan doesn't. So that it's kind of like not even a downside.
Healer removing Aegis is very relevant.
Right.
It is. It's definitely relevant. But how much does Combray, for example, care about Aegis? Not that much. Most
What-
threats in the game that like you want to vanquish, you can also just block.
You can also like silence stuff. Like you have like Desert Marshal and Falcon Forester to pop Aegis, and
Yeah.
if you have to.
It's also really nice to be able to play a life gain card in the deck that isn't worthless in the other matchups. Because I think the problem with Healer was that in so many of the bigger matchups, she was just not a card. Or it was like very hard. If you couldn't pop Aegis with her, she was almost worth nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas this card actually like does something. And then almost every control matchup, the Nightfall is going to be better for you, or like very very even.
And you know what? I would have said that, you know, Combray Healer gets around Runehammer and stuff like that, but so does Lunar Magus. So you
Nightfall
know,
is a good way to deal with hammer people.
Also,
Probably the
like the Runehammer decks, Combray's
Wait.
already favored into.
do
Like
we have an aggro Nightfall deck now?
I mean, I don't
Bang
think
Sarasaur draws. Like, I mean, if you're drawing cards every turn, like Bang Sarasaur is 3 mana 4/4. Like,
Sarasaur is pretty powerful.
I don't know.
Yeah.
If you draw any extra cards, like Bang Sarasaur is just nuts, right?
especially with like a trick, just something random like Levitate. It's good. But
Which
go ahead.
is it still banned? I wonder.
Yeah, it's banned.
Oh
From
god.
ATS. Yeah.
Alright,
Well,
let's
we don't
move
know
on. We've all
patches
agreed
on.
this card's nutty.
My favorite.
Query Raider.
Oh,
I
baby.
Also
I
nutty.
love this card.
I think this card's unplayable.
I think this card's ridiculous.
I think this card's disgusting in Chalice. If Chalice ever comes back,
It's
I think
disgusting in Chalice. Agreed. But
I
I think
it's
it's disgusting in
cards.
Legion.
Oh, it costs
playable in Praxis
it's
and Elysian
a
as well. Because
3
they're
mana 1/3. The when it attacks effect doesn't actually exist.
Why?
Because it's a
You play-
1/3. What are you attacking?
Turn 2 or turn 3. Sorry.
Turn 4, you mean? It costs 3 mana.
you have
There's
ramp if you're an
this
Elysian.
card of Initiate of the Sands.
I'm
that
not
you can play
ramping
with.
this. Why
I
would
think
I
that
ramp
you're-
this?
I think that
I think
you're
playing it with
under. You're playing it with removal spells so that it can actually attack. Like it's just a control. It's a part of a control shell, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what it should have been in the first place, right? And now it actually is at a proper cost for it to have an effect. And the 1 damage does not matter. The 4 damage does not matter. Yeah, sure. Sometimes you
You
have
play
to
for the
attack it
effects.
to draw a card. Sometimes you have to attack it into a bigger unit to draw a card, but sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes you just start removing threats, you bounce threats, blah blah blah, and all of a sudden you have this card draw engine that you cannot stop because you've just drawn into more gas and stuff like that. This is a very powerful card now. Very very powerful card.
Also, it cycles at very worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am okay with being wrong on this card, for sure. Like, I would like to be wrong because I think it's awesome. I just...
Also, isn't
I-
Reliquary Raider an Explorer?
Yes.
Hold on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
See, there you go.
It's just so low impact in my opinion right now. I agree with Chad. It's definitely interesting. And, like, yeah, if you go turn 3 this, turn 4 removal, punch ya, like, that's really nice. Like, the real question to me is how good is a 3 mana 1/3 that when it blocks you gain 3 life? I think that's the side that you actually have to think about right now. I don't think that's particularly exciting. Like,
Yeah, I
a
mean, I think
lot of
Magus is
aggro decks
better.
are actually 3 attack. Like, except for Onion and Outlaw, most things are 3 attack.
Yeah.
Which means that effect, in my opinion, is deceptively not good. I think Magus is better, and I'm not sure you're going to be able to fit them both in the same deck.
Oh, I think we lost Hulk. Feels
We
bad,
did.
man.
Goodbye, my friend.
But yeah, I think it's an interesting change. I think I would have rather it be like a 4 cost, 4/4 or whatever, something like that. But think this is at least interesting. I like the card a lot. I think it's definitely something I want to try out. And yeah,
we will see. Maybe we can scream it.
Oh my god!
I think it's like just so much worse than Gorgon in that case, but like it's a joke. Shall we move on to Season Spelunker?
No one cares.
I don't.
Hello?
Agree.
Hello? A 3-mana 5/5?
I think
Like
this
what?
card, if there's like sorry.
Why play that when you can play a 4-mana 7/7?
Let's imagine we're in a world we're playing this like whatever the 1-mana 1/1 where that gets +2/+2 if you have a relic.
Yeah.
If you're playing a world where you're in like this aggro relic deck, this card's amazing.
Yeah, this card's
you have a
ridiculous
1-mana
actually now.
3/3. You have a 3-mana 5/5. You do have a 4-mana 5/6. I think this card is really good. The problem is the cards it's competing with. But now, and this might sound crazy, Praxis might actually have a 3-drop.
Who knew?
I think you'd rather play Valkyrie Raider than that.
What is that card? Oh, Valkyrie Raider. I thought you said Valkyrie Raider. I don't.
I mean, maybe maybe you have two of that slot there now. I don't know. Maybe you have this as like a sort of a way to punch through, and then you also have this 1/3 on
how
the
are you
back.
punching through when it has no evasion? That's my question.
Yeah,
Like that's the problem with all the Relic Matters cards. It's just a big dude. It's like champion of progress, big dude that does nothing.
Yeah.
And then the opponent removes it, and you feel bad.
But Champion of Progress is a 6-cost card, so it needed to have evasion in order for it to be good. Whereas this is a 3-cost card, and now a 3-cost 5/5. I think that's actually really good. I don't know. I think that's way above curve. I think that this is definitely going to see play.
My computer just died, so I had to go find my charger.
Nice.
Okay.
And it turned out to be quite an adventure.
Did you say? Could we say you're being an explorer?
Kind of, yeah. It was. I could like tangle it out of the bed. It was really weird.
Well,
anyway,
we think Season Spelunker is good.
Yeah, I think it's that's another good buff to that deck. I think the card was kind of unplayable before. Like you were probably making a mistake putting it in your deck, but that's a 5/5. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah. Well, how about we talk about Stirring Sands? That's not how you spell Stirring Sands.
Baby.
I think
the Reanimator.
Resurrect Sandstorm time, and that's good.
Yeah, that's very good because it then untaps. I think this card is good. I think Sentinel Reanimator got better. This card's a buff, costing less, even though it's depleted now, or whatever we want to call it.
Exhausted.
And the fact that it also got a Mirian Shoveler, in my opinion, I think this card's better. I think it's a thing. The question is, are the payoffs good enough to be reanimating them? But I think if they are, the deck is now there.
Well, I think at 4 costs that it doesn't matter if the payoffs are there.
Yeah.
Like if you're playing Sandstorm Time, getting a second Sandstorm Time for 4 is not bad. Getting a second XYZ part of the vault, whatever you want.
Yeah, you don't even need to dream big and get like Great Queen. You can just get
exactly. That 1 mana like turns it from a card where you have to kind of like get a card that wins the game to you can just play this kind of a value play. Like if you get a 6-drop or a the guy that silences the void, whatever he's called.
Yeah,
that's good enough now.
Whereas
before it really wasn't.
What if Praxis just plays this card?
I think it's like a 2-of.
Oh, that could be cool too.
As just getting there's like extra copies of
like your
or Titan. But like I don't think Reanimator can work. Like a full-on Reanimator style.
Oh no, this is not a Reanimator card in the sense of Reanimator. I think this is a card that is just acceptably okay.
It could be okay if you do the Nocturnal Observer
thing. Interesting. Like you play a normal kind of mid-range game plan with Titans and maybe Elysian, whatever the Sentinels are there, or like Praxis, and then you sometimes have the upside of just reanimating a 9-drop or something. Like Kiln Titan. It's like if you get that on turn 4, you probably win the game, right?
Yeah,
a lot. So having the upside of doing that while still being able to play like a consistent mid-range game plan is pretty cool.
That's how our Reanimator deck was working pretty well.
That's the power of Reanimator. I don't think you ever want to be all in Reanimator. So
no, because you're playing a 75 card deck.
Parrot Sentry, guys.
It's the new Soulfire Drake.
I love that card. I've been trying to make it work.
Wait,
I don't even know what it is, so I'll be honest.
It's
It's a 5-mana 4/3.
Searing Blaze is a flyer when it goes into play.
So
Deals 3 to.
yeah, it's a 5-mana 4/3.
fucking deal some 6 damage. That's sick.
Yeah, it's a 5-mana 4/3. If you have a relic, it's a 5-mana 6/5, and it casts Searing Blaze on a flyer.
Alright.
So you don't even have to kill the flyer. You still do 3 damage to the opponent. But
Yeah.
if you, it
Card's
kills
probably
some-
sideboard.
I don't know. I think this is like a legitimate top end.
Yeah, I think this is actually pretty good now.
think
5
it's
mana
powerful.
6/5 that deals. It's like a Flame Tongue Kavu in this flyer centric format with things like
Honestly, I think it was even playable before. It's just that no one knew the card existed.
yeah.
I was surprised when it just kind of. I was looking around the new set cards and it's like, huh. I had no idea this card was even there. It's one of those cards that really flies under the radar for some reason. I think maybe because Soulfire Drake was always there.
It was competing with a lot of good cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is one of those things. Oh wait, a 5-drop that was being overshadowed by Soulfire Drake, and perhaps now we'll actually see some play from Parapet Sentry. Who knows?
I
We'll
think
see.
I think it's playable. I don't know how many. I don't know how often. I don't know how often. Like, if there's a lot of flyers, this is really good. It goes with your Titans. You know, we got this plan.
It's also very good against Argentport for similar reasons, like Island's Intervention.
Yeah. I think this card's fine. I think it's definitely going to see some play.
It's decent. Like with Spelunker, I still think you guys are overrating just the relics, the relic buff. I think it's just too hard to get off. But
You play the one cost. You play the one cost that you can pay 6 to draw 2 cards now.
I think the excuse to
Family
pay
chart.
Power Stone is pretty powerful, and I'm a big
Stone's a
fan.
really powerful
I'm a
card.
big fan of Dig Side also. I think that card is pretty good.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Big
Dig
Psych-
Side's
play
really
Moondial
Big Psych got
too.
better.
or Cryptic Etchings, Moondial or Cryptic Etchings in this deck.
Yeah, just something.
Anyhow, let's go on to the next
Uh,
two, because we can just do them
yeah.
simultaneously.
Bowing
Yeah.
Thunderfoot, and what's the other one?
Sedrock.
I
Okay.
have no idea what Fudrock even is.
It's a Yeti thing. I think Bowing Thunderfoot's just unplayable.
Yeah.
I just don't
I
think
think
it's
really-
worth bonding.
Really, I think it got kind of significantly better because chaining bonds are much easier now. And
That is true.
the fact that you can go turn 6 to 6/7 into bonding this guy for 1 mana
Yeah, that's true.
and getting I don't know. I think there might be unexplored potential there.
Okay.
Like it's a very powerful play. Like you go from not having a board to having 11 power in play and stunning an opposing unit. That's woof.
Yeah.
I will say though, I wish there was an endurance dinosaur.
Yeah. Okay, and what's the other one that you said?
Sedrock.
Alright.
It's like, I think it's decent. I mean, it's going to be played in like a mid-rangey Yeti Tribal with like Wump and Party and stuff like that, but I don't know how good that deck is. It's probably going to be something like mid to low tier 3.
Yeah, not dying
Probably
to
just
torch
some,
is
like-
nice.
You have Slope Sergeant in that deck and things like that, so you do have some card draw.
You
Some
got
sweet
another card that got
potential and
buffed.
stuff.
I forget which one.
I mean,
War Chief.
A 5/4 is kind of good stats.
I mean, we'll
Yeah,
talk
I mean,
about
it's
it
better.
later.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's actually worth thinking about playing a mid-rangey Yeti Tribal, but I don't think it's that good.
No, but
I don't think aggro
When we
Yeti
talk
Tribal
about Iceberg War Chief, I'll give you a little hint about how powerful the strategy actually might be. But anyway,
Yeah.
I feel like
But
this
can-
involves the word haunting scream somewhere.
oh
No.
yeah.
I mean no, but actually,
In bad news.
Can we just stop before we get to creating something that is a terrible monster that no one should ever play?
Okay. So let's go to our next card.
There's this monument.
Amethyst Monument. I think that's a really interesting change. I think the card is now
like it a lot.
playable.
Yeah, like now the only bad monument is fire.
And that's fine-ish. I
Okay.
think a 5-mana 4/4 lifesteal is playable.
yeah, especially when it
I think a more mid-range version of Felon Control might actually exist now
So-
because of this
Yeah,
specific.
I know.
Monument.
I don't even know if you want to slot into Felon Control. Like, I think any mid-range deck that's playing Shadow probably wants that card.
Yeah, it's just fine.
Like, I wonder, do you
a lot of mid-range decks want to get to 6 mana though. Like, I find people include monuments kind of more than they should because of like the downside of not always getting the. It's kind of there.
I don't think that this card changes anything.
The problem also is it's a 5-drop, which makes it not very good at like stopping aggro.
Yeah, the 5-mana 4/4 is still shitty.
Yeah.
I think it's obviously better, but I think it's still like.
She kind of fell asleep the second we went into bed.
Nice. I don't think it's particularly exciting still.
Yeah.
Next card.
Yeah. This card though.
Cabal Slasher.
Yeah.
A 2-mana 1/3.
So Life Force
got buffed. This card's good.
Yeah, it's borderline playable in Life Force. I still think it's very sketchy.
Borderline playable?
Like, I mean, it has the same problems of like cards like Champion of Vengeance, where it just dies to like tons of removal.
But it's 2 mana.
Yeah, true, but like, I mean, it's.
this thing unanswered in Life Force is going to kill you.
I think that the main upside is that we can play this together with Dreamcatcher as like a really easy 8-drop, 2-drop combo.
But we have Scribe, we have Oasis Seeker.
On Skype.
Ooh, Scribe isn't as good with this kind of strategy though.
Yeah,
you need actual literal life gain, and maybe Water of Life.
What if there's
that's really bad.
What if there's a Life Force aggro deck that plays Cold Aspirant, this, and goes just to Catra? You have a bunch of good 2-drops, like Dream Snatcher.
I think you play Reliquary Ritter in that deck.
Oh yeah.
Maybe.
Now they can't attack. Now you just have this sitting back on. I don't know.
That seems horrible to me.
Yeah, but Lunar Magus though. Lunar Magus.
Problem with Lunar Magus is it does nothing.
But I think it opens up to like playing the 1-drop that creates a dude, and then you can play the Talir's Intervention, and just like the really low to the ground Life Force deck might be there now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Alright, cool. Next card.
You can also scream this back.
True. That's technically true. This could be like a 12-point burn spell. Alright, over. Take it away. You had thoughts. I didn't.
Oh, on
Iceberg
Chief? You know that sometimes Yetis make snowballs.
Yes.
Right? There's the 2-cost thing, and also there's other things. You can put this with your you can put this in with the Jotun what's that? Yeah, Jotun Hurler. You can put that in those kinds of decks, and now your snowballs deal 3 damage from 1 mana.
Not bad. One slow speed torch that you get for free.
And you get to play Pelting too.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh god, that's actually so scary. 4.
No, wait. It's 2. Oh right, yeah. It's 2, not 3.
Yeah.
It's not the best torch in the world, Jerry.
God, if it was 3.
No,
Pelting
costs
it's
1.
a torch that can kill everything your opponent has. Like it's very easy to pay 7 mana and do 4 damage. I don't know. I think there's real depth here.
Ion.
I think this card's definitely a buff, and I like it.
I like it.
I don't think I really care.
Change the meta much because like you're already playing Ion no matter what in Xenon. I don't think you're playing Xenon because of this change, but it definitely helps your win rate a tiny bit. Maybe like 1% times.
I'm gonna torch you for an obliterate. Like, I think this is definitely a buff. Even though it lost some stats and dies to torch, I think it's quite good.
No.
I think Yeti mid-range likes it.
Yeah, sure. I was moving on to Ion, but yeah.
No. I think you guys. I think Darkness, you're underestimating how good Iceberg Warchief actually is now in that kind of.
I was talking about.
I think it's actually.
Sorry, I thought.
Yeah, we were scooting on to Ion.
Okay.
Not.
For those of you who say this is irrelevant, you are wrong.
I mean, I think it's good. I don't think it's a huge change to the card.
No, it's not like the meta shifts because of it, but Ion definitely got quite better.
Well, without Vara, like you need to have some sort of reanimation in Shadow. I don't know, like.
Yeah, I like it.
I mean, I think it's fine. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I don't think it changes how the deck is built.
Yeah, it doesn't change playability.
How the deck is played. But
yeah, cool.
Mask of Torment.
Is
I
that
think this breaks the game.
Yeah, I think Master Torment 4 might be a little.
this card's great?
We'll see, but I think that there's probably a Mask Control out there that's if not breaking the game, but at least extremely powerful. And I think Mask is part of the meta now.
I think Mask is a very real card. The question is, where do you put it? And the question is, because we lost Vera, what do we do with all of our mana? That's what we have to figure out. Once we do figure out what that is, I think this card is very, very powerful. It's going to see play. We have to find out how to break it, preferably before the ETS Team League.
I don't think we're going to be able to do that,
break
but we'll
things
see.
in time, but like, I think this card's very playable. You gotta find the right shell, and when you find that shell, you're gonna get sick of losing to it.
I think that there are two possible shells. Just going to talk on this.
Sure.
I think there's a time shell. Not a time shell, sorry, a justice shell, which gets to play Harsh Rule and Owls, which is a hugely good payoff.
Yep.
And I think on the other end of the spectrum, we have the potential of a very, very gross Felician, or whatever you want to call it.
Domination, yeah. FTS. I mean, no, sorry, TPS.
Yeah.
And I think that deck becomes very interesting because of a lot of things that happen here. Specifically, the fact that you can go Black Sky Harbinger.
Yeah.
On curve.
New curve.
Yeah.
Like, Black Sky's a 5-drop will be a busted card. I think we could agree on that.
I mean, Black Sky that gains you 2 mana, or 1 mana, is a pretty busted card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree.
Yep.
I think this card's very good.
Dream Snatcher being...
Gets a buff.
You know, Vara, like, Vara's generally pretty bad now, but if you have 10 mana, you can still play her along with a Dream Snatcher.
Maybe a deck that has tons of mana, tons. You might need to mask that much mana, but maybe maybe that's the one home Vera has is, besides Deadly Rod, is no. I don't even think we're memeing when we say that. Like, maybe there is.
No. I was joking when I said Deadly Rod, but if it comes into thing, I'm going to be so happy.
I've started thinking about the deck while we've sat here. Like, there are some good cards. But like that, this might be the one way to play Vera, because you need to play Vera plus something. But yeah, Chet just said Parliament and Tormentor are probably the better payoffs of Vera. Probably, like, at least
Tormentor?
The 20 mana.
The ultimate.
Well, I think the ultimate's the payoff in all cases is good.
Do realize we do get banished, but how much do we care? Yeah. Banish isn't good right now.
I mean, Banish might be good because the deck is probably playing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm excited. So, we talked about every card. I think one by one we should go through our individual, just like a quick, what do we think of the patch?
Could I go first since I have to leave quickly? But yeah. I think Removal Pile got a decent sized buff. I know Lost Wanted poster, but Commando won Worlds and didn't have Auto poster back then. I think the deck, Protect, losing that is a much bigger deal for Removal Pile. I also think like a lot of the aggro decks have been cut a bit, and certainly Control, like Feln and stuff. Like losing Drake's big, losing Vera's big. I know Ekamaku was dying, but it's still like a decent Control deck. I know guys are gonna hate me for this, but I think Rally is actually in a much better spot right now. I think you guys are much overestimating the power of Lunar Magus, since it doesn't gain life the turn it's played, which is massive, because you can just combust it or rapid shot it or whatever. I know you can't torch it, which sucks, but I think if people are playing that over Combray Healer, that's a massive buff for Rally style decks. I also think Alchemist, like people playing it less, is going to be nice. And I think Reliquary Raider isn't that big of a deal, although it might be. We'll have to see. But yeah, I think AP mid is also in a pretty good spot now. Like, I know I lost Protect, as I mentioned before, but I didn't care about that deck very much, or that card very much. Like, Removal Pile's slightly worse, but I mean, I think it's still very good. into that matchup. Removal Pile was very good into Argentport, but I think it lost a couple of the other matchups that it had trouble with. Like Charge Rod, it was pretty even too, but but like, yeah.
Okay.
But let's see. What was I gonna say? One other thing. Forget. I think also, like, I know you guys have been testing a Legion a lot. That's probably a good spot. I think it's going to be a lot of interesting mid-range decks coming out. I think Rakano is also still going to be very good. I think Remove Pile is probably going to be the really only control deck that survives, because really Akari is the only good finisher now that like costs like 6 or more. Maybe Voda Combo. I don't know. But yeah, those are my thoughts, I guess.
Alright. So my thoughts are, generally I'm happy with the patch. One thing that we haven't mentioned is I'm happy that Direwolf pushed out another patch so quickly, which was important for them to do, I think, especially with how much hatred the game was getting. I think we're going to be playing a lot of mid-range decks. I think Elysian, whatever, is quite good. I think most aggro decks got a bit of a nerf, especially ones that might want to end the game with Burn. I think Rakano is still good. I think Skycrag is worse. I think Stone Scar, like, regular is worse. I think Stone Scar Slingers is still quite good. And that deck doesn't have to rely on Burn, which is very
I would argue that Stone Star Slingers is more mid-range list.
I would agree, yeah. I think Removal Pile is still very good, especially once it's actually built correctly. I think, what other decks do I want to quickly mention? I think with Vera Lost, I think one of the things that's going to matter the most in this metagame is finding what actually is the best broken top end in the game. And when we find that answer, the first person to abuse that answer is going to win an ETS. It's going to be very good. We just have to find the answers. I am excited. I think there's a lot of unexplored territory, and that's always fun.
Yeah. Regardless of how they went about these changes, and I agree with other people about this, that they probably over nerfed a few things. I think that the meta that they potentially have created is much more interesting now. They have all the things like Removal Pile is weaker now, which was a bane on the existence of the game, I think. Protect being a bane on the existence of the game, being able to, effectively destroy removal. Your ability to respond to a lot of situations. Ekomocto, things like, I mean, Ekomocto was never like that great of a deck, but it was very obnoxious. Vara being out of the meta, like now Vara being gone, like, I don't know. It sucks for EWC in general, but I think that Vara was too strong. I don't think it needed to be nerfed quite as hard, but they did, and we have to kind of accept it. I think the things that they buffed were more interesting than the nerfs, to be honest, because now you have probably a very real relic deck. It's much more aggressive. It can do a lot more things now, and potentially even a Sentinel Reanimator deck that's actually good, whereas it was just basically a meme before. And with the changes to Cabal Slasher, I think that we have a much more low to the ground Life Force deck, whereas it was basically a Katra bust before. And then we have Mask of Torment, which is now a ridiculous card. I don't think. When me and Tatavath were testing with the Mask deck, the Felon Legion one, it felt like Mask, if you could play it, like it felt like an unlosable type of situation if you could get to Vara. And I don't know what we play in Space of Vara now, but like it generates mana fast.
Yeah.
So like it's like Mask now at 4, you can actually slot it into your curve instead of dying to random aggro potentially. It's just very nuts. And I mean, and of course, the fact that you're playing random life gain in that kind of deck, because of course you're trying to gain life in order to gain mana, means that you're going to die to aggro a little less often than other decks anyway. So I think Mask is very, very powerful now. And the Iceberg Warchief is something, and the Thudrock upgrades. I think that a mid-range Yeti deck might actually be something that's actually powerful. I don't think that deck is not going to be it's not going to be as fringe anymore. I mean, it was unplayable basically beforehand, actually. If we're going to be honest, and now with that upgrade to Iceberg War Chief, I think that we might actually see some play. I'm not too sure how good it is yet. I'm probably gonna fire off some deck lists and whatnot. I might have to craft some Thud Rocks, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I think I like this patch overall.
My opinion's kind of simple. I think that they went about this patch in a very sideways manner, and they took every card out rather than actually like addressing what they created, which is kind of not what I wanted. But I think the net effect of this patch was fine. Like, I think overall, I am very happy with what will come from this. I'm just annoyed with how they did it, which is fine.
Alright, I think that sums up our thoughts. I want to say thanks to you guys for joining us and the others who have had to disappear at various points. But, yeah, thanks to everyone for tuning in live on Twitch and people watching, I guess, on YouTube. I don't know how to word this because no one's going to watch an hour and 40 minutes or something, but whatever. Oh yeah, guys, thanks for joining us, and I guess we'll see you next time.
See you guys later.